to This Is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, which is a really hard book to read for me. It was the recollection of notebooks of a fictional character called Obayoso. However, it becomes even darker when you realize that it's basically an autobiography of Dazai himself. There's a lot of parallels between his own life and the events described for the character in the book, and it's hard to read, I'll be honest. It's just a very sad story in general. Like, from the moment he was a child all the way until he's an adult, the character Yoso has some very tragic events, and it just gets from bad to worse to worse to worse. And it's one of those books, well, for me it's the first one that you don't get to taste any joy at the end. It just leaves you with a lot of thoughts, a lot of things in your mind. But that's a good thing, I believe. It's a very tragic story, and the thing that it's really remarkable for me is that when you see a very tragic story or something bad happening to a character in a movie or in a book, whatever, you can always find comfort saying that, well, it's a character, it's a fictional person with fictional problems. It's, even if you get a little bit attached, you find comfort in saying, well, it's not real. But in this case, well, first of all, it's almost an autobiography, so it is real, the dread that this person felt. And also, the way he talks and the way he thinks, it's very human. Like, he is described as a good person. At the end, he's even described as an angel. He is not someone not worthy of empathy. It's just a normal person who had terrible luck. I don't know what else to call it, but he had some terrible events happen in his life. He didn't do much wrong. It's just terrible events happened, and you really feel empathy because he tried to do his best. He tried to be a better person. He tried everything he could, but he's just, his own mind and the world just played wrong with him and led to a very tragic life. And the way he speaks, the way he acts, the way he thinks, you can really relate to those. It's not just a normal character, it's a human being, and you can relate to him. More than once he thought about something and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I think the same way sometimes. So it leaves you thinking that all the tragic things that happened to him, it's not in another world. This is a very real person who happened to have a tragic life, and it could happen to anyone. And it's also an admirable character because it's very transparent. He thinks what he has in his mind. He's very sincere with his thoughts. He doesn't want to polish his thoughts to convey a better person or a better character. No, if he's greedy or if he's bad in some situation, if you even call it that, he will say it, and that transparency really makes you relate to him as well. So he does go really deep into his own mind to write this book, and it's almost impossible after reading it that you won't do the same. After reading it, I almost unintentionally also began to think a lot about how I feel and what I do, and sometimes it's not usual thoughts. It's not something that you're comfortable with just going to the deepest corners of your mind, but it's healthy to do sometimes, I think, and this book definitely gives you a push to do that because he did it himself. Um, so I was left with a lot of thoughts that to this day, I read it like a week ago, but I'm still thinking about what is empathy, who deserves pity in this life, why do we throw people away from society that are outcasts who don't deserve any pity. And it makes you think a lot, and I really like this book because of that. It's very short, it's almost like 120 pages I think, but in these few pages you get a lot to think about. So I would definitely recommend it. If you're not doing too well with your own feelings right now, or you don't feel too good, then it's probably not the best to read it now. But if you want to get into a very gritty but human story of a very, very tragic life, definitely read it. It's a really good read, but I agree it's not for everyone really. So yeah, read No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. That's all.